So then this is going to be the story for tonight, okay? I warn you. It's a weird story and it doesn't have an ending. At least not one that I know of. Okay. It was probably, I would say, 30 years ago. I was maybe even more than 30 years ago, like 32 years ago. I was like 15 years old. And I had a dream one night that I was walking in downtown Buenos Aires with a girl called Valerie. And you know what's really funny?
What?
That I still. Okay, I'm not gonna spoil the story. Okay, anyways. So, in my dream, this girl called Valerie was telling me that we had a mission, or I was telling her that we had a mission. I don't remember the exact details. And that we had something that we needed to do outside of the dream world when we came back to this reality. And so she told me, yes, yeah, please call me. And she gave me a number. And that number was like the one you just said, something kind of complicated, random. And I told her, this is a dream. I will not remember this number. I know myself. When I wake up from a dream, I don't have that good of a memory. And so she said something like, okay, call me to this other number. And she said, 911111. And I said, okay, I'll remember that one. That one's easy. When I woke up early in the morning to go to school, I remember that dream. And I thought that that was very odd. Because I don't usually have lucid dreams like the one you had last night. Last night you had a lucid dream where you realized you were in a dream. Remember, you told me that you were going underwater and you couldn't breathe and it was starting to hurt. And then you thought, but I have to test if this is a dream. And then you started breathing, and when you could breathe, you realized that it was a dream. And so, well, that wasn't normal for me. And I was much older than you. That's why I'm surprised that you just had it now at 7 years old. I was, again, like 15 years old at that time. And so, because it was so unusual that I had a lucid dream, and that in that dream, this woman called Valerie would tell me to call her phone number, because we had a mission that we needed to do on Earth, I took a notepad that was in the kitchen next to the table where our mom, your grandma, that lives here, the one you just saw a few days ago, she was cooking breakfast for me and Uncle Eric. And I took a notepad, and on the back of that notepad, there's like a cardboard paper. So you write a note and you rip the paper. You write another note, you rip the paper. But the cardboard on the back is always the same. And so I wrote 91-1111 Valerie. And I left it there, and I forgot about it. Again, I don't remember. I may have been 15 or 17 years old. But so what happens is that like half a year goes by, and I completely ignore that. It's a dream. Who cares? Half a year. You have no idea how long. The summer turned into winter. It was like that. I mean, it was that long. It was like from now to spring, okay, of next year. I was eating something in the kitchen, and I saw that notepad, and it was positioned against the wall in a way that I could read on the back, 91-1111 Valerie. And I remember that. I totally remember the drink thing, and I was so bored that day. I had no idea what to do. There was no internet back then. Well, kind of was, but it was something very rare, and I had never used it in my life. There were no smartphones. There barely were cell phones. And I had nothing better to do. I was just bored out of my mind that day. And I see that number, Valerie, and I remember the dream and the thing about the girl telling me, call me when you're outside of the dream world. And so I decided, why not? I have nothing better to do. I'll pick up the phone and I dialed the number 911111. And back then in Argentina, numbers change from 6 digits to 7 digits. We're in the middle of switching. So a computer replied to that call, automated computer, which was what was happening at the time, saying the number you're trying to call, 911111, has been changed to 9011111, because the numbers were changing at the time. And that computer would tell you that so that you would write down the new number from now on. So I wrote down the new number. And I said, this is a stupid, crazy idea. And I did something else. And I completely forgot about it for, I don't know if a year more or something like that. I mean, crazy times. Imagine since when you were 5 years old until now, okay? It's crazy amounts of time. And then one day, I saw the same notepad on the wall in the same place. Apparently, we didn't write too many notes. But I remember the whole thing again. And I decided to call again because, again, I was bored. This time, however, something happened. Somebody picked up on the other side of the call. Now, what am I going to say? Am I going to say, yes, I'm the guy from the dream? No. Because in this world, that doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. Dreams are dreams, and this world is different. That's what I was taught when I was a kid, right? I know that I taught you to have an open mind on that sense. But when I was a kid, people would call you crazy if you thought that the dreams and this world would connect. And so I completely dismissed it. But then again, I was so bored that I picked up the phone, I called, and the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, "Hi, may I speak to Valerie, please?" And the other end, I was totally expecting from somebody to say, "Who's Valerie? There's no Valerie here." You know, it's like you call any random number and you ask for Valerie. Yeah, I'm sure that there's 1 out of 10,000 homes that has a Valerie in there. But most homes don't have a person named Valerie. So I was expecting the other person to say, "No, there's nobody named Valerie here." Instead, they passed me the phone to Valerie. And now I'm on the phone with the girl, and the sound of her voice comes back into my mind. And I remember it was the same sound from the dream. It was the same girl from the dream. And so I was shocked. I could not believe I was like, how is this happening? The dream world has connected with the real world. And so I start opening my mouth, and I have nothing better to say than, "Okay, Valerie, this is going to sound crazy, but I had a dream and I needed to call you." And she interrupts me and said, "Who is this?" And I said, "Okay, my name is Brian. Okay, I had a dream. Please, this is going to sound really crazy, but I need to tell you this. Who is this?" "Valerie, I'm sorry, please hear me out. My name is Brian." And she hangs up on me. She thought it was some jerk playing a prank on her, okay? Well, what could I do? I was completely blown away at that point. I was like, what just happened? The matrix of the planet just switched channels or something, and I was left in the between because how does this cross from the dream to the real world? I could not imagine it. But I had to do something about it. But here's my problem. What can I do? If I keep calling, I'm going to sound like complete crazy to these people. And I don't want to scare her. Because if I do have a mission with this girl that I need to do for the future, then I'm not going to start off by scaring her away, right? By calling her like a psycho, saying, "I'm Brian and I know you from my dreams," because that's what crazy people do, okay? So I let it go. I never, ever, ever, ever called back, okay? And one day, like 2 years later, okay, this is a long story. I'm not kidding you. This is like, I'm at year number 4 approximately, okay? That's how I remember it at least. Maybe it was a little less time. I don't know. I have a friend of mine that is a very young hacker, like computer hacker, back in those days. And he figured a way to hack into the phone company's computer. And this was like movie style thing. We were super underground, like on the edge. Now, if I want to be honest with you, I had no freaking clue what I was doing there. I was just having a lot of fun, but the brains of the operation was this guy. And this guy, by the way, and this is side story, but it is crazy story. This guy dictated a book to his mother when he was 6 years old, telling his mother that he had come from the sun, okay, and that he was a spirit and came from another dimension. And then we became good friends. His name is Flavio Cabobianco. The name of the book is I'm from the Sun, or Vengo del Sol. In Spanish is Vengo del Sol de Flavio Cabobianco. Anyways, that guy was a hacker friend. And this hacker friend hacks into the telephone computers. And we're just playing with it. There's nothing we could do. You could look up numbers and names. I don't remember much of what the capabilities were. But suddenly I remember about this girl. And so I asked my friend to look up the information for this phone number. Back then, this was not something you could do unless you work with the phone company or the police. Those were the only two kinds of people that could find out from a phone number who was on the other end. So I was like super hacker level thing. And my friend gives me the name. It was a guy's name, it was a man, and the last name of this man. I'm not going to say it because I don't want people to know him.
I promise I won't tell anyone.
Okay, I'll tell you later, I promise, after the end of the story. Anyways, so it was a guy's name and this last name. So I figured, okay, because in my dream this girl was still young enough to live with her parents, maybe the guy's name was his dad. But now at least I know the last name, because if that was his dad, and then the guy that picked up the phone originally sounded older. When I said, hey, can you give me to Valerie? And then he gives me to this Valerie girl. So I figured this guy must be his dad. That's why he's the owner of the building. He's the owner of the phone line. But the last name must be the same as the daughter. So there has to be a Valerie with that last name. And I got the address. Okay. Now, I'm not a stalker. So I was never ever gonna go visit them. I to this day I've never went to that address. I don't know what it looks like, okay? But what I did was I wrote a letter addressed to Valerie and that last name to that address, hoping that maybe the family still lives there because that's what the record said. And in that letter I told everything I just told you now. I told them about the dream, I told them about the phone calls, I told them about everything. And I said, look, I'm never going to harass you. I'm never going to go search for you. This is all my contact information. Here's my phone number, my address, my email address if you wanted. I think I gave her my email address. The only thing I'm going to do is send you this letter a second time to be 100% sure that it didn't get lost in the mail. That's all. That's all. You never need to contact me if you think that I'm a weirdo. That's the end of the story. I send this letter. And about 4 days later, I get a call on my phone, and it was Valerie. She got the letter. And she's like, what is going on in the universe? And so she tells me that she doesn't live there anymore because now she's married. I mean, seriously, this is years that went by, okay? And so that her dad or mom received a letter for her. So they didn't open it because she used to live there. So, privacy, respect, whatever. But it was an unusual letter because I made it with a computer, and back then very few people did that. I was very much into computers when I was a little kid. And so you put certain fonts, things like that. Very unusual letters. So they called her. And they say, you have a letter here. Really, a letter from whom? A letter from a guy named Brian. Brian? I don't know any Brian, said Valerie. I mean, seriously, who remembers a prank call that lasted 30 seconds 2 years ago, okay? She could never imagine that it was me, ever. I'm sure at that point, she completely forgot about that idiot that prank called her and wondered about it for a week or two and forgot about the thing. Years later, this letter shows up saying, I'm Brian, I'm the guy that called you, I met you in a dream. Anyways, so the parents call her and she says, open the letter and read it to me because I don't know who is this. And so the mom opens the letter and reads it to her over the phone, and they're both shocked. They're super shocked because they both 100% believe my letter. And my letter was so open and non-threatening. And they all remember that call at that time. Years later, it suddenly goes back to their, like, I cannot believe that was it. That prank call that we wondered about for a week, like 2 years ago, that was it. It was a message from a dream, and I was super legit, honest, and upfront about what's my address, what's my full name. I don't know if I even gave him my ID number. I mean, I was so transparent. I did not want them to feel like I was a crazy stalker. So she immediately calls me back, and we get to talk. And she thinks I am Jesus incarnated, and I have no clue what's going on in this world. And so I don't know if she invited me uh, to her home, or I invited myself, or what happened. And she was at that time living with her husband in a very small apartment. And her husband was more on edge, worried, probably. He's always been very protected. As far as I know, they're still together. They have kids now. And so I think maybe they both feel safer knowing that I would be in their territory, because this was an unbelievably crazy thing. And they invited me for dinner, and so I had dinner with them, and very nice, lovely conversation about just the most irrelevant things you can think of. I don't even remember what was discussed in the conversation. All I remember from the dinner at this point is that when Valerie was accompanying me down the elevator after dinner for me to go away, she looked at me in the elevator and told me, "Who are you? What's going on here?" And I looked, and it was like 7 floors from when she asked me the question until the ground. And I answered, "We have about 7 floors to say goodbye to each other. How can I ever explain to you the vastness of the universe?" And I don't know if that blew her mind, but it blew my mind, because I didn't even know where that was coming from. And we said goodbye, like we would know each other like a stranger almost, but also like a question without an explanation. Both of our eyes, we did not know what was happening, and we parted ways. We never talked. We never saw each other for God knows how many years, 15, 20 years, I don't know. And now I'm living in Mexico, where I met Mommy. And you know about Facebook, which is things where people meet, groups?
Yeah.
Suddenly, somehow, I found her on Facebook. So I contact her, and she remembers everything for decades ago. And she's still wondering what's our mission, and me too, and I have no clue. And anyways, I was traveling for business, so we met in Buenos Aires, I think, once. She was a very successful businesswoman, had lots of kids, still married to the same guy, looked very happy to me, always in a rush. When I met her, she looked like my energy from her was that she was a bit in a rush, and probably not completely comfortable seeing me. I don't know if it was because she was afraid that I was going to shatter her beliefs or some structure in her life, but that's the feeling that I got. And so after that meeting, I bought her a book. I remember a book that was very meaningful for me. I don't know if she ever read it, but after that meeting, we kind of went our ways, and we never had contact again for many, many years now. Maybe she's gonna see this one day if she finds out about it, and there will be some closure to the story. But to this day, I don't know what the mission is supposed to be. And that's the story. The end.
And what's the name of that guy?
What guy?
You said there was this guy that answered or something.
Oh no, I don't know. I don't remember, but I didn't care about the name.
Oh, come on. You said you were going to tell me.
No. Here's the point. This is a real story. Okay, I'm not making it up. This actually really happened to me. So here's what happens. When I hacked into the phone company, they gave me a name of a guy and a last name. Okay, I knew that was not who I needed. I knew that most likely that was his dad, so I didn't care. And I don't have a good memory for names. And because I never cared about the name of the guy, I never saw the guy in my life. I actually spent about 10 seconds on the phone, not even 5 seconds on the phone. He picked up the phone. I said, "Can I speak to Valerie?" He said, "Sure." That's why I forgot about the guy. But again, this is not a made up story. If it was a made up story, I could make up any name. This is 100% real. That's why I tell you that what happened to you yesterday, where you realize you were in a dream, that's the beginning of waking up to a different dimension. Keep seeking that whenever you can. And you will find unbelievable things. You'll be able to conquer all your fears. You'll be able to have as much fun as you can imagine. You'll be able to create a lot more. And you're so far ahead of me. I'm impressed.
Ahead of you? How?
Because I'm 47 years of trying that, and I still have a hard time doing it. But you, it's like, turns out if I'm swimming, what if I'm not? I'm gonna breathe. Oof. Okay. That was a genius idea, and there's so many of those. For example, the typical one is look at your watch.
I don't have a watch.
Exactly. If you suddenly have a watch and you cannot tell the time, that's your code that you're in a dream. And if that doesn't work, look at your fingers and count them. If you have more than 5 or less than 5, that's your cue that you're in a dream. It's super easy. All you need to do is throughout the day, you look at your hand and you count your fingers. When you're awake, you do this, okay? And you do it random times. Nobody has to ask you about it, okay? You just suddenly, like, I don't know, you're walking and you look at your hand, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you move like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And you go about your day and start doing that multiple times a day. You don't have to do it all the time. You just do it once every now and then. Every time you remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. You say, okay, 5. Then what's going to happen is at one point you're going to remember when you're in your dream, and you're going to go like, oh yeah, I have to do this. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 7, 12. And you're going to be like, oh, 12. I'm in a dream.
And then I'm gonna be like, ooh, more fingers. Now I can wish that.
You can have one wish for every finger.
Yes, and more wish.
Yes, your first wish should be, I wish to be able to do anything I want that makes me a better person. And happy. That very important, both things have to be true. I wish to do anything I want that makes me a better person and happy.
And that is fun.
That's the same thing.
Oh.
Fun is happy always.
And I wish that I will have a whole bunch of, like, almost every single day I would say baby. With Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
Or every single day I would have a play date with Bane. And that's it. All the rest is probably gonna be, and I wish to be always funky.
Always funky. I like that
Yes.
wish.
Yes.
It's a great wish. Well, remember to do your finger count on your dreams and start wishing away when you wake up in the dream. Now, good night, Pequeno.